Hey, good morning. How's your Sunday going? I think the last video I made, I think the volume was really poor on the microphone, so I'm trying to get that worked out. I need to get my Skype number on this and get a little more professional folder that's on this this monitor. Hey, how's this, baby? Man, I felt good dressing up today. So I've been thinking a lot, which is good. And I ran into a friend yesterday, or at least who I thought was a friend. And what was here's the irony of the thing. I've always admired this person. I've always thought this person was really special, and not just physically but mentally. And she kept mentioning about how full of shit I am. And you know, you know, she doesn't know Henry 2.0. Excuse me. And I don't really care I don't need to promote myself to her or anybody really. If I talk about the miracle or the change in my drug addiction, it's to help those that want to recover, because those that were out there doing it right along with me, if they there's a lot of people that want to quit and you don't know how. I didn't know how. I remember my first moment of clarity, the real moment of clarity was when the lady was at my house and we were making the arrangements for the cremation. And I'm like, uh, I used to drink, we called them double barrel shotguns. They were Mike's Hard Lemonade and vodka. And I'm two in the morning by like 10 o'clock. And uh, here I am trying to put the moves on the cremation lady in the morning. Okay. Uh, and when she left, I was humiliated and unlucky. Point of clarification. But I just thought to it was like, wow, I have become that alcoholic that's like, I'm embarrassing myself. And like, I have more self esteem. I don't hate myself that much. So if I'm talking about recovery, I'm not talking to you if you don't want to hear it. Fine. I don't care. But, I'm, I'm not needing to borrow your car to get somewhere, and if you're nervous about it coming back safe and sound. Oh man, I don't want to loan him his. I don't want to loan him my car. That's in this movie, Final Hour, about Churchill. And us alcoholics, we love Churchill because and what a time to think about Churchill right now. But this guy in his English accent says, I wouldn't let him ride my bicycle. One thing I really like, I think about Churchill, some of his quotes were awesome, but you can't throw rocks at every barking dog. You really can't. Otherwise, you'll get nowhere. Churchill, I love what he did to get the people off of Dunkirk. And Churchill also was the last guy to gerrymander the Middle East. Saddam Hussein, you know, I think Churchill created the country of Kuwait, the way he gerrymandered it. But today, uh, get out and go to church today if you're not doing anything. I'll be at Storehouse, which was the old Lucky Dogs, which is ironic for me. Um, one of my favorite bars, I think. Well, because it was easy. When I was living on 28th Street, I could just sneak home down Bell, go by McClure School. No, actually, you'd go on up a little further, up 25th Street. A friend of mine told me the other day that someday we need a guy like you to get out there and tell the truth and stir up the pot. The problem with Topeka is, so I want to become a county commissioner, and I really want to do it to work for the people. Uh, I, the whole idea is we got to get the people have to feel like it's not hopeless. I mean, when they see idiots buying hotels with our tax money, and we got to get guys like, we got to help guys like Earl McIntosh that are out there. We got to remember this is our government, our republic. We've got to get the people involved. There are too many people on too many of the same boards. If you want to be involved with government, I need you to get involved with government, because it can't be what Henry McClure said. I've gone down there to city council several times, and I've said mainline printing has told me at all costs, whatever's going on is to get that city garage to White Lakes. And what would even be better is that they could finance it. So the taxpayers wouldn't have to use tax dollars to purchase it. They could ground lease the land. We can do a build to suit. There's so many different ways to do it. But you guys don't get it. Government, there's so many people that, well, we don't want, who's going to own the building? Joe should own the building, not this guy over there. And if Henry has anything to do with it, it's got to be a bad deal. Somewhere somebody's getting cheated. It's like, is there a conspiracy with the streets and all the new car people? If we keep the streets bad, you'll have to go out and buy new cars. And the mechanics love all the potholes because you got to come in and fix the cars. If I owned a car dealership, well, the only reason he wants, if I was a mechanic, the reason the streets are so bad because Henry wants to keep them bad. So they'll figure out some way to say how if he wants the streets fixed, it's wrong. And let's say it's like opposite, if I'm for it, they're going to be against it, right? So vote for Vic Miller. Hey, now seriously, somebody's got to tell me how Vic Miller should be dog catcher. What has Vic Miller good ever done? What good has he ever done? All right, I digress. Again, I ran into him yesterday at the election office, actually on Friday. But good morning. With Memorial Day, and let's talk about the war in the European theater. What Adolf Hitler did to the Jews is terrible. And like people that stand with Gaza and are more worried about Gaza, did you forget what humanity has done to the Jews? Did you forget about that? How can you stand? I mean, how can you be a Jew hater? I just don't think people get it. And I think people go protest just to protest. Hey, I remember that, kind of like Archie Bunker was saying that about Meathead. Meathead's always protesting something. I just remember that on some sitcom. You know, what's the next protest? What are we going to do? I think that my broadcasts are a wee bit of my mental therapy, not to not hold it in. Aaron Mays will have a primary. And he was appointed through the Good Old Boy Network first, and then I think the next time he ran unopposed. So we really need to replace Aaron Mays on the county commission. Brett Blackburn has always been a very, and that dude's a numbers guy. You know, Brett and I over the years really haven't done a lot of real estate deals. I can tell you, though, where Heritage Bank is originally, he saved the day for me on that deal, where the original nursery was. A lot on my mind today with Memorial Day. I had a step uncle, Jim Breyer, and Jim was over in the European theater, and he had collected a lot of Nazi memorabilia. Yeah, I mean, he had a flag. He let me take it all to, and maybe he attended the history class, but we had Lugers, a flag, some medals, swords, and things that he had collected off of German officers over time. And thank God for the efforts they made. And I really love George Patton as a historian. He believed in reincarnation, and he had this uncanny knowledge of history. Some days it would almost make you would become a believer that he believed. You definitely believed he believed, but who's to say? My daughter says it's all in the delivery, and she appears to be right most of the time. And you know, sometimes you got to let a kid be a kid. And I always wanted to talk about the miracle that happened to me. To just all of a sudden never have the desire to want to use drugs again. You know, when you have a moment of clarity and you know what you are and you still don't quit, that's what I admire about the people that go to AA all the time. You know, you're not alone. You're there, you're going over it and over it. You're there supporting the new people. And that's what I think is important in government is having the programs available because some people haven't went and showing up. And let's say there's 100 ways to get sober. Well, we probably ought to offer 101 solutions, whatever it is. Because there are a lot of people that want to live better and do things differently and just don't know how to do it. There are people like me that have had that clarity and then you just don't know. You just, you're in the thick of it and you don't know how to get to the next spot because you really don't think about, like at noon, well, where could I get to a meeting? If you're already tuned up at noon, you know, what am I going to do? Let's just keep getting tuned up. Breaking the cycle becomes difficult. And that's really what we've got to do in Topeka. We've got to break the cycle of how we do things. You know, and I'm going to use Vic Miller again. The number one thing that he did when I was a Metropolitan Planning Commissioner was he disbanded the Metropolitan Planning Commission. And I think, ask David Banks if you run into him. Banks said that a lot of people said the city worked better when there was one planning commission. One of the things that's really glaring in my face about Kevin Cook and running for his seat is his job day to day. He gets $120,000 a year from the city of Topeka. And this is public knowledge, as the public defender. So how could you really ever go against city council? They're the one that approved his check. He doesn't want to do anything to upset the apple cart on behalf of his law firm. And so has he really just been, the number 11th council person as it comes to the county voters as it deals with the city of Topeka? And somebody's got to give the city of Topeka some guidance. And seriously, if it took 2 years to get the Pizza Hut building permit, which I hear is under construction up on behind Ace Hardware, if the sole reason is because Henry McClure's in that deal, well, then that's even a better reason why I got to get the public involved to bring things forward. At public comment, writing letters, go talk to the right people. What's really crazy is after my next church, thinking about coming back to the theater or the studio, what's really crazy was Matt McGivern got so angry about the fact that he wasn't involved with the next level of the city garage. I guess he hammered, I think, Karen Hiller. And anyway, his email got circulated, and Tuesday we have a meeting out there, and because I brought it up, they didn't, if Braxton didn't get it, but we are so Mayberry. We are such a little town. But we definitely got to learn how to get together. We got to we got to either get we've got to get enough people in the state house to override Laura's vetoes, or we got to get Laura on the same page. But half of when showing up, quit complaining, quit bitching if you're not going to join in. We need more people. This is like, it's time to pick up your firearm, it's time to pick up your fork, your shovel, your rakes, light the torch. We, the people, have to get involved. And think about this over Memorial Day. I've really got to think about my dad. It's so funny. Dana K. Anderson the other day, he goes, I never really thought of your dad as an alcoholic. Okay. Now, Dana didn't think that about me. I mean, he definitely thought I was part of that club. But he goes, so it was interesting to hear Dana K. say, well, your dad, I really never thought of him as an alcoholic. He just had a zest for life. And as I got to know my dad better over time, my mom and dad divorced when I was 3. And Dad remarried right away. And then uh, he produced another child, my half brother, Matthew Boyd McClure, who I heard's got a cart. He's got like a 4-wheel cart. I ran into a friend of mine, like an electric vehicle, says he wears the helmet. Um, like, hey, good job, Matt, for getting some vehicles, for getting some transportation. I'd love to see you. Hey, tell Matt he can ride his cart over and he can come on one of the shows. But Dad, he had issues with all the bombing missions he flew. He had issues with training to drop the atomics. He was one of 5 crews of 5. If you come over here sometime, Dad was a navigator, and he's got like a star chart that he had to do to become a navigator, and Dad was like a human GPS system. It was always fun. It was always fun to make my dad laugh. He had this like, oh, you know. Um, Took Dad to the track one time, and he got to hang out with Mace, and Mace came up to me. We were making some bets, and he goes, "Your dad," and Mace's voice, "Your dad is very emotional." I go, "Mace, he loves you because of what you've done for me." Now, Mace is an interesting dude. He was a tie salesman after World War II in Macy's, and they were trying to get Mace to go career Navy. And if you knew Mace Siegel, you'd you'd laugh. He goes, "Hey, what rank do you think I'll get?" They go, "You might become a chief petty officer." He goes, "No shit." So Mace became the 3rd largest mall owner. All started here in Topeka. He beat Mel Simon to the punch on one of his first deals in Ottumwa, Iowa, which I got to figure out how this Siegel guy. I might take the trip soon as I get. I think soon as I get Whataburger closed, thanks to Bring Back the Boulevard. Sorry. Thanks to Sterling Scott. Thanks to Blake Scott. Thanks to the Parker family and Mainline Printing. They are the ones that are going to bring back the Boulevard. And I'm telling you, everything that we had to do with the city of Topeka, you remember Doug Gerber? I went down there and made a presentation about how the 2 owners, one of the owners wasn't living up to the REA. And, okay, so he's not living up to the REA. Why don't you use your authority as code compliance? Why don't you place a lot of pressure on the guy? He's violating the code. See what's going on. See if anybody's watching. I can't really tell. Doesn't matter. Hey, it's not about you. It's about me today. So Mace Siegel and Dana K. Anderson, and Dana K. was in the military. Those guys had some of the most influence, some of the most astute deal makers I've ever met in my life. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to figure out how to make deals if you're in different parties. You know what I'm saying? You can't just go out today and vote for an incumbent because it's your party. Today, if you don't see the difference, Mace Siegel and Dana K., that team was, I think they were far better real estate guys than Trump. Mace didn't want to be, he didn't want to have his own TV show. I've used the media to help get my real estate deals done. I got to also thank my mom today because my mom went out to and lived on 29 Palms when they were part of the Manhattan Project. And she said she would, my mom, my mom was interesting. I definitely know, I don't think my mom was an alcoholic as much as she liked the theory of drinking. You know, her family was at 5 o'clock, you know, have a cocktail before dinner. And, you know, I never saw, and they might have a glass of wine at dinner, but after that, it was over. They weren't like getting tuned up again. You know what I mean? You know how after dinner you start having the brandy and the shots, and you know you become these people. That just didn't happen around the Bantleon house. Uh, the McClure grandparents were dead by the time I showed up. So um, getting to know Judge James A. McClure by um, going to his school 3 years. That's the best I got. And my cousin Tom McClure. I had a half brother named Tom or Tim. Okay, I digress. I had a stepbrother named Tim on Shirley's side, which was my dad's second wife. But real quickly, and I'm going to sign off just because, let's see here. Going on 25 minutes. The Judge James A. McClure, used his juice, his influence, to get his two sons deferments and sent down to the border. And they were part of the Border Patrol back in the day. My dad and uncle wouldn't stand for it. And dad listed in the Army Air Corps and wanted to be a pilot. He literally was too smart to be a pilot, and they needed him to be a navigator. And then Uncle Jim, he was a doctor, and Jim's dad's senior. You know, he's older, but Uncle Jim was the first doctor on the ground in Hiroshima to inspect from a medical standpoint what happened. And I'm going to close on this. What my dad and I have in history is the mighty Missouri. And man, I'd like to thank the people of the mighty Missouri that allowed me to have dinner on the Mo when it was in Long Beach. And wherever Wes Carey is, and give Henry McClure a call. Wes was officer of the deck during Desert Storm, and got a Bronze Star, and he got a Bronze Star on the Mo in Vietnam. And if you watch the movie Under Siege, he's in that movie. He's the guy at the table when they're on the speakerphone, and he's the guy that knows what's going on, giving the generals the answer. And that guy was one of the coolest guys I've ever met, ever. But to think the fact that I stood where the Japanese surrendered, and my dad was the first B-29 to fly over the Mo at that very moment. I think they had 1,200 B-29s flying over, just to let Japan kind of let that sink in. You know, we're ready to keep coming. And the atomics, you got to study your history. The atomics didn't make them surrender. It's old Joe. Stalin was breathing down their neck from the other side. So I guess I got to thank I got to think both great grandfathers, Yankees. One was a chaplain, one was a infantry guy. Uh, Henry Augustus Bantleon was discharged to Wyandotte and later on had a career in the railroad. And Samuel McClure was discharged here at Topeka as a Yankee chaplain. He was the third guy at the First Presbyterian Church. Prior to that, Henry, Wilhelmina's husband, my great great grandfather, had a cousin, Anthony Wayne, who fought with Lafayette. So my Aunt Mariana did all the homework, but somewhere I'm a son of the American Revolution. I knew you wanted to say something, son of something else, but that's okay. You know what? I'm going to keep being that guy because somebody has to stand up for truth. And I'll be that guy. A voice for the rest of us. Thank God for the men and women who have served to keep our country what it is. And let's not forget, if we don't work hard, we can lose everything we got at the drop of a hat. We got to close the border. If nothing else, we just have to close that border. Who knows who's coming across? And we got to stop sending money to Ukraine. It's interesting. I met somebody who grew up speaking Russian in Ukraine, a Ukrainian, who actually likes Putin. And they told me that Putin's over there trying to help the Russian-speaking people of Ukraine. And they verified there's lots of Nazis over on the western side of Ukraine. And those are the people that all speak Ukrainian. But I'll tell you what, today, more than anything, I stand with Israel. Our forefathers stood with the Jews during World War II. And I'm going to tell you something. The most barbaric people were the Japanese during World War II because they're the Gaijins. We were the barbarians. You know, what the Japanese thought of themselves with their culture was right, maybe just a little over the top of Adolf Hitler and the master race. You know, Hitler was trying to create a master race where basically the Japanese felt at that time they already were the master race. Pick up some history books. You got to figure it out for yourself. Also, too, one of the ways you fix Topeka is turn Topeka into a tourist town by bringing our history to life. And while people are looking around at our history, let's give them nice streets to live on. And if nobody's told you they love you today, I love you. Henry McClure Live.